Welcome to the second last episode of the Women of Faith in Leadership podcast for 2024. Wow, it is nearly Christmas. Depending on when you're listening to it, this might be after Christmas. So today I thought let's keep it Christmassy. And I'm going to do a Christmas theme today, and I'm going to talk about Mary and Joseph. Now, we all know that Jesus was not necessarily born on the 25th of December. There are a lot of speculations about when he was actually born. But the 25th of December is when we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, whether that was the day that he was born or not. So let's talk about Mary and Joseph today from a leadership angle. And yeah, let's keep it Christmassy, and I hope that you really enjoy this episode and that you are having such a wonderful Christmas season with your family. All right, let's do it.
Do you wish that you could lead your team in a way that honors and glorifies God? Are you struggling to overcome self-doubt as a leader and have a desire to be more confident in your role? Welcome to the Women of Faith in Leadership podcast. I'm Rika, and for the last decade, I've experienced my fair share of managing challenging employees and teams in middle management leadership roles. I committed my leadership journey to God, and it changed everything. And I'm ready to share everything I've learned with you. Now, if you're ready to lead your team in a way that honors God, grab that notebook and pen, and don't forget your chai latte, and let's dive in.
Now, Mary's story is a very unique story. She was pregnant, and by divine intervention, and of course in that time it was very scandalous if you were not betrothed to your husband, to anybody really for that matter, and you got pregnant. So when I was thinking about this and writing the script for the show, I thought about what it must have been like in that time for poor Mary when she found out she was pregnant, or when she was going to be having a son, and all the humanly thoughts that must have been going through her mind. Because as human beings, what we tend to do is we tend to look at things from a human perspective, and our brains can sometimes take over. And remember, we always talk about the head and the heart, okay? And so there's a big difference between the two, because what's in your head is usually your more logical thinking, where you're thinking about the pros and the cons, or what can go wrong. But if you're thinking with your heart, that's the emotional side of things. And so from Mary's side of things, must have been really tough for her. However, the beauty of the story is Mary's faith. And so from a leadership perspective, what we can really learn is that Mary led with courage, faith, and adaptability. Because I think we can all agree that that's not exactly how Mary thought her life was going to turn out when she thought about getting married to Joseph and having, their kids. And so you can imagine her surprise when the angel appears to her and let her know that she was going to conceive and bear the Son of God, when her and Joseph had not actually even been married yet, and how they, what a scandal this was going to be especially for that time. And so, I was thinking about how at this point in time in society, people get pregnant all the time and there's no scandal to it. There's couples who live together who don't even believe in marriage. And just, I'm not placing there's no judgment, but what I'm thinking of is about the different times that we're living in comparison to when Mary, and the feeling that Mary must have had when the angel appeared to her. Because remember, she's still a human being. So yes, she had a lot of faith, and yes, she had a lot of courage, which is the one thing that's going to come up. But can you imagine how she must have felt, if you can just imagine it for that point in time? Think about that one thing in your life that you've done that you were so scared, maybe as a teenager, when you were so scared your parents would find out what their reaction was going to be. And so, yeah, that was Mary. And so she had a lot of courage because she said yes to God's plan. And she demonstrated profound faith and trust in a higher purpose. And so from a courage perspective, Mary faced a lot of social stigma and uncertainty, but she did so with courage. And so the leadership lesson here that we can learn from Mary is that leaders often face difficult decisions. Every day we face difficult decisions, and we must be willing to take those risks and stand by our convictions, even when facing the opposition. And so as leaders, we need a lot of courage. And when we think with our heart, when we think emotionally about it, we don't want to have courage. We just want to bow out, or we just want to give up. Think about that one thing that you need to do in your role that absolutely petrifies you. And for me, it's public speaking. I get absolutely petrified with public speaking, but I continue and I do it anyway. I don't let that stop me. But it gives me a lot of anxiety when I do any public speaking, although I'm still pursuing wanting to do that. I still want to talk to people and I still want to talk to crowds because I believe God has put me on a mission to do so. However, it still petrifies me. And so this must have also petrified Mary, definitely. So what we can really learn from her is courage. The next thing we can learn from Mary is faith. So Mary's faith provided her with a vision beyond her immediate circumstances. And so she must have had a lot of faith in Jesus, well, not in Jesus, in God, to just say yes to the angel and to just be willing to do what was requested of her, although it would have been very, very, very tough. But Mary knew that there was a bigger vision. She knew that this was going to be something significant. Okay, I don't think she realized at the time how significant it was going to be, but I think as time went on, she definitely realized, and especially after Jesus was born, and especially after things happened which would have been supernatural or which would have been completely out of her hands. I'm just thinking about when Jesus got lost on that trip, and when they went back, they found him in the temple speaking to the other priests. And so, Mary must have definitely started to realize that, okay, that courage and that faith that I had, that's really coming into play now. And so, even just Jesus saying things to her like, well, I don't know why you're, like obviously he must have said it in a better way, but I don't know why you're surprised to find me here because this is the house of my Father. And so it would have been very tough for Mary, but that's the same for us as leaders. We face those tough things every single day, but we must hold on to the fact that there's a higher purpose, and we must have faith that God placed us in this leadership position for a reason. We must have that faith that God wanted us here for this position at this point in time for a reason. And so what I hear from you as the listener is that you have a lot of self-doubt about you as a leader, and you lack courage to have tough conversations. And so as Mary, she would have had a lot of self-doubt, and she would have had a lack of courage as well. But she was very courageous in what she did, and she did not lack faith. So as you doubt yourself more, what I'd like to challenge you is to increase your faith, spend more time with God, spend praying to Him, spend time with Him, talking to Him. Give up that self-doubt to Him and let Him know that, God, I don't believe in myself, but I know you believe in me. So can you please give me the courage that I need for today? Give me today my daily bread, because that's what I need today. And so the last thing we can learn from Mary is really just adaptability and resilience. That's actually two things, but okay, adaptability and resilience, because Mary didn't plan for her life to pan out the way it did, okay? I'm very sure when she and Joseph decided to get married, however it happened, that they didn't think that it was going to pan out this way. However, the same for us as leaders. We have a plan, but sometimes we have to adapt to that. And then when we are adapting to our plans, we have to have resilience, because sometimes the new plan is more difficult than the original plan that we had. And so we have to be able as leaders to navigate unexpected challenges and then changes in our environment, because that happens every single day. I'm pretty sure it happens in your environment every single day as well. And so this is particularly relevant in today's rapidly changing world, because there are so many things as leaders we have to keep track of. And so even just things like pronouns. And, that was something that I was thinking about as well, is as leaders, the world has said that, okay, we don't only have pronouns of he and she now, we also now have they and it and all the other pronouns that there are. And so it was a thing that existed before. If I think about my English teaching, if you use the word it, you always refer to a thing or an animal, and he and she refer to a person. Well, now that's so completely different. They refer to multiple people. Well, they can now refer to one person that does not identify as a he or a she. And so I think as leaders, we are constantly having to adapt to these sort of things. You might not believe in that at all. That might not be something, you might believe that there are only two genders because the Bible says that there is only a man and a woman. However, as leaders, we've had to be adaptable because we cannot just go into the workplace and say, well, you identify as a they, sorry for you, I'm going to call you a he and a she. We can't do that because then we're seen as disrespectful, and we're seen as homophobic and all these things. So the point that I'm trying to make is that there are so many things in this world that we've had to adapt to, and we have to be resilient. We have to be resilient in that. You might want to grind your teeth together and you say the word they, or because you believe in he or she. But because we're respectful, because remember, we're very respectful of people who believe what they believe, because the Bible teaches us that Jesus in particular was very inclusive of people who were sinful. He actually sat at the same table with people who were sinful. And that is because, we don't reject those people. We actually sit at the table with them and we make an influence, and we make a difference in their lives in the nicest of way without forcing Jesus on them. So yes, it's a tricky balance to strike, but that adaptability and resilience it is something that we can actually be like Jesus. That those little armbands that we used to wear, what would Jesus do? Well, in this circumstance, think about what would Jesus do? Would he be respectful? Would he sit at the table with the sinful people, with the sinners? Well, yes, that's why some of the people were so angry with him, because he did that. So, so we can learn these three lessons, actually four if you include resilience in that, but resilience and adaptability is, I'm putting them together because through the adaptability, you have to have resilience. So courage, she showed amazing courage, faith, and then adaptability with resilience. So if you want to be like anybody, be like Mary. Be a leader like what Mary was. Now, Mary couldn't do it alone. She had a husband called Joseph. And if you have to put yourself in Joseph's shoes, think about how tricky it was for him. He found out that Mary was going to have a baby. Well, what does that mean? That means that she was with another man. And so initially, what does the human nature of, because we're human, immediately think, well, what type of I can use all sorts of, words that people would use in this day and age for somebody like that. But, Joseph would have had a shock to know that Mary was having a baby, but they hadn't even been together yet. And so, because again, that was the time. So Joseph made all sorts of plans in his mind, because that's what us as human beings do. We make plans without seeking God first, okay? And so that's why it's so crucial that every single morning you need to pray that whatever decisions you have to make throughout the day, that God will be with you and help you in those decisions. I always pray for knowledge, wisdom, and insight. Those three things I pray for nearly every single day, because I want all my decisions. I want God's knowledge. I want his wisdom, and I want his insight, because sometimes as an outsider, we can see things that people on the inside can't see. So I want that insight to know that, okay, this decision that I'm making right now is a good one. We have to pray for that every single day, because as leaders, we sometimes have to be very decisive. We have to make quick decisions, and therefore we need God on our side to make those decisions on a daily basis. And so, Joseph wanted to make his plans. He was, and can you imagine all the feelings that he must have felt, all the emotions? He would have been angry at Mary. He would have felt so betrayed by Mary, because this woman that he loves is now having a baby with another man. And so luckily, God is amazing. An angel appeared to Joseph, and everything was cleared out. All the uncertainty, all the feelings, all the everything that Joseph had would have been cleared out by the angel. Now again, okay, this is so crucial. As leaders, we have all these thoughts and feelings, okay? And we want to make decisions based on the information that we have, which is Joseph, right? But we have to make sure that we have the bigger picture. We understand all the information, all the aspects before we make a decision. Yes, sometimes we do have to make decisions in the spur of the moment. However, you have the opportunity to gather all the information and make sure that you make an informed decision. And so after Joseph had all the information, he could make an informed decision, okay? Because you imagine all the feelings and stuff that was going through his heart, okay? But now he could think with his mind and with his brain, thinking that, okay, this is now I have all the information and I can make an informed decision. And so the angel confirmed Mary's story and instructed him to take her as his wife, okay? That whether that was tough or easy or doesn't really matter, but he had the information now from the angel, and now he could make an informed decision. So much better, because he had made all these plans about leaving Mary or about because he didn't want to put shame on her family, so he must have loved her a lot to self-sacrifice like that. But luckily the angel came and cleared it all up. So thank goodness for that. Okay. So the thing with Joseph, okay, he was obedient. He was just so obedient to what the angel's message was. And obviously that meant that he had faith in God, because if he didn't have faith in God, he would not have been obedient to that angel. He would have just thought, what is this? Okay. But remember, for that time as well, I'm sure people didn't think like that, but we've got so many influences from the outside world at the moment and from the world itself, that sometimes we do experience divine intervention and we don't even realize it. We just think, it was just a coincidence, or it was just this or that. So I still do believe in miracles, and I know a lot of Christians still believe in miracles as well. But I know that it's kind of dampened at the moment due to everything we see on TV, due to all the influences from the world itself. So, okay, let's see what can we learn from Joseph from a leadership perspective. Okay, so number one, integrity. So Joseph could have been, he was angry or disappointed or whatever he felt with Mary when he found out that Mary was having this baby. Again, they hadn't even been together yet. But instead of slandering her, instead of, doing the wrong thing, he showed integrity. He kept it to himself. And then that night, all that uncertainty, because can you imagine? I think he would have struggled to sleep that night. I think he would have struggled so much to fall asleep, because he would have been in turmoil about this woman that he loved. Okay, she's having a baby with another man, or she laid with another man, and he must have been so upset. So for those couple of hours from when he found out that Mary was having a baby to when it was all cleared out would have been really, really tough for him. But he had integrity. He didn't go and, go to the neighbor's house and go and slander her, or, even in front of her, said bad things, or called her a very bad name for a person who sleeps around, or something like that. He just decided he wasn't going to do that, because obviously that was also not his personality. But he could have reacted in a very bad way. I mean, he had every right to, especially for that time, to be very cross with her and to be very mean to her and to abandon her and to throw her out on the street. But he didn't. He had integrity, and he had, he loved Mary so much that he was willing to let her go, to share her family the shame that this was going to put on their family and on their name, because Mary was pregnant. So he had a lot. He acted out of honesty. So he just did that. He did the right thing, and he had integrity. I don't know how better to explain it, but he just, I think he must have loved Mary very much. That's all I can say. And he had ethical principles as well. He decided that okay, I'll have to just do the right thing. And to be honest, that's what integrity is, right? Doing the right thing all the time, whether somebody's looking or not. And so Joseph, before this came to anybody, before anybody knew about Mary's pregnancy, he had to make a decision. Okay, nobody was looking at him. But he had to make a decision, and he made the right one. And so the other thing that we can really learn from Joseph is that servant leadership or support leadership, because if I think about servant leadership, I think about the word support. And Joseph's decision to stay with Mary and support her demonstrates servant leadership. Again, he could have gone, he could have left her, but he prioritized the needs of Mary and the baby that was coming above himself. And that's what we as leaders have to do. Servant leadership means we prioritize the needs of our team and we empower them to succeed. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't care for our own needs or empower ourselves or to succeed or whatever. Servant leadership is often seen as I'm giving up myself to look after my team. But in actual fact, all that it means is that I serve my team and I make sure that they have what they have so that they can do their job to the best of their abilities. Okay? Doesn't mean that you can't look after yourself as a leader and be, the negative sense of the word selfish, because the word selfish has become quite the negative word. You are allowed to be selfish with your time, 100%, and not in a negative way, but in a positive way, because if you're not going to be selfish with your time, it means you don't have any boundaries in place, and you must have boundaries in place, so it's okay, okay? The other thing that we can learn from Joseph is decisiveness, because can you imagine this? He finds out, let's say on the Thursday, I'm using days, I'm sure they didn't have days in those times, but I'm not sure. Let's say he finds out on Thursday afternoon or Thursday morning that Mary's having a baby with somebody else. He would have been in absolute turmoil for the rest of the day, struggled to fall asleep, but then the angel appears to him on Thursday night, and by Friday morning, he's like, right, yes, let's do it. Boom. So he was able to make a quick decision because of why he could make an informed decision because he had all the information. But although he was decisive and he could make that decision, did he make a decision on Thursday afternoon after finding out Mary's news on Thursday morning? No, he didn't. He didn't go on Thursday morning, find out about Mary's pregnancy, and on Thursday afternoon kick it to the curb. He didn't do that. He would have gathered all the information. He would have worked through all his emotions on Thursday, and then it was all cleared out on Thursday night. But because he had all the information on Thursday night, he could make an easy decision on Friday morning. So again, I'm just using Thursday and Friday as days to give you an example. Decisiveness does not mean we have to make a decision right here and now within one or within a split second. Yes, I have been in situations where people want a decision from me right there and then in a split second. And then I've made the mistake of letting them control me, basically saying that, okay, well, I have to make a decision right now, so just give them an answer. And then that ends up being the wrong decision. Because you're 100% allowed to say, look, I understand that you need an answer right now, but I need to go and think about this. I need to make an informed decision. What information can you give me to make this decision? And so one way that I really learned to hone those decisiveness skills was through weekly meetings. And yes, weekly meetings can be extremely time consuming. But that's a good way that I learned how to be decisive in the moment. If somebody needed a decision from me right there and there in the meeting, because sometimes that's exactly the aim of the meeting, we need to make a decision, then they need to bring me all the information to the meeting and I'll ask questions. So that's one way you can get all the information out of them as well, is ask lots of questions, okay? Get all the information and then, yes, you can make an informed decision right there and then you don't have to sleep over it and wait until tomorrow morning. Okay, because sometimes people need, especially if I'm thinking about some of the meetings I had, yes, that's the reason why you go into the meeting, is because you need that leader to give you an answer. But they cannot make that answer if they don't have all the information. And then the last one is protecting the vulnerable. So, Joseph sought to protect Mary from harm because he loved her, And, as leaders, we need to protect our team, and especially the vulnerable in the team. And so the first ever time I had to deal with a bully in the workplace, I cried because I couldn't believe that somebody could treat somebody else so poorly. I just couldn't believe it. And it hurt my heart. It hurt my Christian heart because I could not believe that somebody could be so mean to somebody else. But I needed to protect the person who was being bullied, because nobody deserves to be bullied, no matter if they've got poor performance, no matter if they're not doing their job well, or no matter what. Nobody deserves to be bullied in the workplace. If they're underperforming, then that needs performance management. But nobody deserves to bully that person because they're underperforming. And so, yeah, this is exactly what Joseph did, is he protect the vulnerable. And as leaders, we have the responsibility to protect our teams, and especially those most vulnerable members, from both internal and external threats. And so that can be anything. That can be customers. It can be, maybe this person is coming in with a disability. Then we need to make sure that before this person comes in with a disability, that our whole team is up to date with how to, let's say, deal with a person with disability. I shared an episode last week from someone who shared their vision, or their viewpoint, and things that they wish that leaders knew about disability before coming into the workplace. And one thing that he said on the episode, if you haven't listened to it yet, go and listen to the episode number 90, I believe it was, that one thing that he said is he wished that the people in the organization received training about autism before he started working there. And when I asked the question at the end of the episode, what do you wish? What advice can you give to leaders? His advice was, give them training. And we sometimes think that it's targeting a disability, or that we're not doing the right thing by providing the training. Well, no, we do. And yes, how do we treat people with disabilities? Like anybody else, okay? That's true. However, somebody that's in a wheelchair or somebody that has autism, you can't necessarily just treat them. Yes, you can treat them like a person with respect, but sometimes you need to understand that if a person with autism make noises, it's not because they're trying to be funny, that's just the noises that they make. And yes, is it a little bit, does it take our attention away from what we need to be doing at work? So it's disruptive? Yes, it can be disruptive. And I'm talking from experience, because I've got a daughter with autism who makes a lot of noises and sounds. And so, yes, it can be, but you get used to it. And so teaching people about that, teaching people about working with a person that's in a wheelchair. And I mean, yes, it's just a conversation before that person even starts in the workplace. And sometimes we just avoid these conversations because we think it's wrong. It's actually not wrong. It's actually a good thing. We're not discriminating. That was the word I was looking for before. We're not discriminating against that person because we're giving training on how to treat that person. I mean, yes, we're going to treat everybody with respect. We all know that. But is there something different that we need to do when we've got a person with a wheelchair? Yes, there is. Are there certain behaviors or certain things that we should or should not do when we've got a person with autism? Yes. Or maybe a person with Tourette's? Yes. So we need to, how are we expecting our team to know what to do if we are not training them on what to do? As a leader, you must not assume anything. Do not assume that your people know how to treat people with disabilities. Do not assume that people know or have the common sense how to treat a person in a wheelchair. Please, the word common sense, I know we should have common sense, but your common sense and my common sense is not the same. Why? Because we didn't grow up in the same environment. We didn't grow up with the same parents. So, some people have more life knowledge and maturity because the way that their parents raised them. Other people don't have that. They don't have similar experiences because of the way their parents raised them. In some families, the parents do everything for the children because that's their culture. Whereas in other cultures, the children have to do chores in the house and they have to learn how to run a household before having their own household. But it's different cultures. So please remember, you have to train your people on what to do and what to say. And it's not like a law that they have to do that, but it's helping them. It helps them. They might be extremely bored in that training because they already knew that information. But guess what? For somebody else who didn't know that information, that's going to be extremely valuable. So please do not underestimate, even if it's an hour training. Do not underestimate the importance of that, of protecting the vulnerable. And the way we can do that is by offering that training, having a chat about it in a meeting, but making sure that people are on board with that. So just to summarize, what we can learn from Joseph is integrity, and then that support or servant leadership, decisiveness without a time frame, and then protecting the vulnerable. So I just want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. I want to wish you that I hope if you have a break, whether you have a break or not, that you enjoy spending time with your family, and that Christmas is just a really good time for you and your family to spend together, to remember that, yes, our kids are extremely excited about the gifts, but it's about Jesus. It's about the birth of Jesus Christ and what that represents for us as Christians. And again, this beautiful, beautiful example of Mary and Joseph as Jesus's earthly parents and how amazing they were, and the leaders that they represent for us today. So I look forward to chatting with you next week when I'll be doing an end of year review, and I'll be giving you some examples of what questions you can ask for the end of your year. Even if you ask them at the beginning of next year, when you listen to the show, you can, if you're not listening to the show at the end of the year, but at the beginning of next year, excellent questions to ask for yourself that I'll be sharing with you in the next week. I'll be praying over the show and then sharing the first episode in January, I'll be sharing with you the vision for the show and what that will look like. And I just want to pray for you for this beautiful Christmas season. Dear God, thank you so very much for these beautiful, beautiful women of faith in leadership. These leaders, God, have a heart for you. That's why they are here. God, they come back to the show because of your anointment on the show and your ability to speak through me, God, because I'm just an instrument. And so I would just like to thank you, God, for each and every listener listening to this show. And I pray, God, that you would bless them and that you would help them to be leaders that you desire them to be, God. Be like Mary, be like Joseph, have integrity and have faith in you. And God, and I pray that no matter how tough the decisions are that they have to make, God, that they would have courage. I want to just really pray for each and every woman for courage today and for the year that's ahead, God. I want to pray, God, that every single leader who experiences self-doubt and just a lack of belief in themselves, that they are in the wrong position or that they don't belong, they feel like a fraud. Got a lot of listeners on this shows who just absolutely feel like frauds. They feel like they don't belong in that position. And so I just want to lift each and every one of them up to you today. And I just want to pray, God, that you give them just this feeling of, I'm here because God wants me here. Give them that feeling in their heart, but also in their mind, because we know, God, that we sometimes feel and think with our heart, with our emotions, but we really need to think with our head and with our mind, which is where, God, we know that we have got all these amazing reasoning skills, and sometimes we reason so much that we get anxiety from it. So I really just want to pray, God, that there be a balance between thinking about our head and our heart, thinking between the two, and so that God, that you would shine in our decision making, and that you would really just provide wisdom, knowledge, and insight to each and every woman of faith that are currently in a leadership position. And God, it doesn't really matter what industry they work in. It doesn't matter whether they're middle management or upper management or exec management or even just in their very first leadership position. God, you have a plan with their leadership life and with their life. And I pray, God, that you would just shine through every single decision that they make and through every single word that they say, that it would honor you, God. And that at the end of the day, that they would feel like their leadership, what they did, honored you. And that they would strive for honoring you through every single thing that they do. We know that it's tough. We know that being a Christian is sometimes very, very tough because we get attacks from the outside world. There's so many things in this world, God, today that is just dark and not from you. And I pray for every single leader today that they would be protected by you, from the outside world, and that if they face those battles, that God, that you would send your angels to fight with them, fight those battles in the spiritual realm, fight those battles and help them to fight these battles on earth that we do as well. And God, when we're dealing with difficult people as leaders, I pray, God, that you'll just give us patience, give us wisdom when we have to deal with these difficult people, God, because it can be just so tricky to deal with difficult people that we sometimes just want to throw up our hands and say, well, I've had enough. I just can't do this anymore. And then we go on ignoring the person. And then we just avoid talking to them altogether because it's just too hard and it's too difficult. But I pray, God, for courage. I want to pray for each and every woman for courage today, that if they need to speak to someone and have a difficult or crucial conversation, have a difficult conversation with that difficult person, that they'd have courage and that they would just pray before the time, that they would remember that you are Lord, you are God, and you are amazing. And miracles still happen to this day because of how amazing you are. And I just want to pray lastly, God, for every single person spending time with their family over this Christmas period, that they would remember what the season is all about. It represents the birth of Jesus Christ and what that represents for us as Christians. And we know, Jesus, that you didn't always have an easy journey here on planet Earth, but we want to thank you for the amazing example that you set for us as a leader here on earth as well. And we pray this all in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. Well, I hope you sincerely enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to speaking with you again next week. Bye.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts? It would mean so much to me to read your feedback. Also, it would really bless me big if you shared this episode with a fellow leader who might benefit from hearing today's message. And remember, put on the armor of God daily and walk by faith and not by sight. I'll meet you back on Monday for another episode.